Lumberjacks in front, he scores! Rudy Burns Charbonneau near side on his forehand, fires and scores! Now Louis Onerheim pops out in front, tries to tuck it and scores! Louis Onerheim!
Hey, Jacks fans, welcome inside episode 5 of Get Jacked, the Lumberjacks podcast. Ezra Janello, voice of the Lumberjacks, along with you this week. An exciting time of year. The players are in Muskegon. Training camp for the 2026-27 season officially starts tomorrow morning. The quest to return to the Clark Cup final for the third consecutive season starts tomorrow. But before then, the Lumberjacks were able to get on the ice for a player-only skate earlier today here in Muskegon. And now, while I've got a lot of stuff going on downstairs, I was able to come up and watch a couple minutes of the skate and the little scrimmage that they had, jot down some notes, and I get to share the first impressions and some insight on a couple of guys that were on the ice along with you here on the episode. And then later on in this episode, we're joined by Lumberjacks newcomer forward, Jake Tavares, who was acquired in the Will Keane trade from the Sioux City Musketeers. Jake talks about his time growing up playing youth hockey in Massachusetts with the Boston Junior Eagles, then going the prep school hockey route and reuniting with one of his childhood best friends, Billy McCausland, here in Muskegon. So before we get to Jake Tavares, why don't we talk about the first impressions from a no coaches player-only skate today here in Muskegon. Now, USHL League rules dictate that teams can't require players or hold team activities prior to August 26th, which is the opening day of training camp throughout the entire USHL. So team workouts, team skates, team meetings, anything like that, you can't do until tomorrow. So the Lumberjacks players were able to get ice here in Muskegon, and they put together a skate for themselves in which they got a quick little warm-up in, and they played a 4-on-4 full ice scrimmage. I got to come upstairs and take a look at it. And off the bat, the first two things that I saw, the first one, Lars Hudson. Now, last year, he was a bit undersized. Obviously, the entire Hudson family, they're all pretty undersized. Quinn, Lane, and Cole. Now, Lars is the newest Lumberjack, following in the footsteps of his oldest brother, Quinn, who played junior hockey here in Muskegon, and their father, Rob, who played pro hockey here in Muskegon. Lars hit a growth spurt this summer, so he truly looks like a USHL defenseman. He looked really good in the scrimmage today. He's bigger, bulkier, a little taller. Now, he's not big by any sense of the word, but he's bigger. He looked confident. He used his size really well today. He picked up a couple of assists. He scored a couple of goals. It was, again, a 4-on-4 scrimmage with no refs, pretty loosey-goosey as the guys were just getting the rust shaken off from a long off-season, or, comparatively a pretty short off-season, thanks to another appearance in the Clark Cup final. But for Lars, he played with no pressure. He played with that added size, that added confidence. He looked good. That was the number one thing that you saw when you watched this skate today. The other one, the player I think that jumped off the ice more than anybody else, is Louis Onerheim, a guy that's set for his second season in Muskegon, first full season as a Lumberjack. He joined the team in January of last year, made his USHL debut, I believe, in Sioux Falls around the midpoint of the season. He got better as the season went on. He really expanded his role in the playoffs in this offseason. You can tell that he carried that momentum from the Clark Cup final and scoring a couple goals against Sioux Falls. He carried it into the offseason, and he has hit the ground running back here in Muskegon for the new season. He looks great. He looks like he added muscle, which for a lot of players around the USHL, they should be scared to see Louis, because he was already known for being big, being physical, and skating fast. So now you add in some more muscle, some more physicality, and a bit of goal-scoring ability into his game. Louis Onerheim, he truly looked like a top-end USHL forward, and not that he wasn't last year, but he looked fantastic today. I wrote in my notes, Louis looks great, moving really well. And again, we knew he skated fast, but he just, the acceleration jumped off the page today. So we talked about Lars Hudson. We have Louis Onerheim getting set for his second season in Muskegon. Let's talk about the youngest Lumberjack this year. Tends to be the tender signing, and this season, it's Zach Charbonneau. A 2010 birth year out of Gatineau, Quebec. Zach was projected to be the top selection in the QMJHL draft. Now, it was pretty well known that Zach was going to be coming to Muskegon, so instead, his very good friend, a very good hockey player, and the younger cousin of Sasha Boisvert, Thomas Boisvert, goes first overall in the QMJHL draft. Zach is known for his elite level shot, his elite level playmaking ability, his big physical frame at such a young age at 16 years old. But today what made Zach look so good was his IQ and his vision. Not only the confidence to pull moves off and make passes, but even seeing the opportunity to make a move or seeing a passing lane across the crease. Really early, it looked, again, similar to Lars. Zach was playing with a lot of confidence, which is something that you really like to see from a guy at such a young age coming in with so many expectations. You know, the Lumberjacks, you look at Tynan Lawrence, you look at Sasha Boisvert, those are a couple of players that came to Muskegon as tender signings, as 16-year-olds that had a lot of expectations. I think both guys lived up to those expectations, a couple of first-round NHL draft picks so far before training camp has started. So we're truly very early and only looking at a no-pressure skate. Zach looks to be very confident. He looks to be very good. His shot is elite. He had a couple of goals, a couple of assists in the skate. He was playing alongside Louis Jonerheim and the next guy we're going to talk about in a second, but he looked good. He did not look like he was the youngest skater on the ice, and he was far from the smallest guy on the ice. So once the Lumberjacks get into regular preseason action starting on September 5 and 6 here at Trinity Health Arena, expect for that physicality to showcase itself in Zach's game. He truly is an NHL GM and a college coach's dream because he's going to score goals. He's going to finish checks. He's going to be a heart and soul for a team. He's going to do that here in Muskegon this year. The guy I just mentioned, by the way, that got a lot of shifts with Zach and Louis today is Drew Fox. Now, talk about guys that aren't very big, right? We talked about Lars, who got bigger. Drew Fox, smaller and very shifty. Very skilled, very confident. He looked fantastic. In fact, when I was watching this game and I was watching Sharbs, center Jonerheim, and Fox, I could only think to myself that Colton St. Clair has 1 out of 4 lines already built for the Game 1 coming to the Fall Classic. A 2009 birth year out of Hickory Creek, Texas. Drew played youth hockey at the Dallas Stars Elite program, and boy, is he elite. He was scoring goals like there was no tomorrow. He was skating the puck up the ice, full ice rushes, leading the charge, the offensive zone. You know, I say it's a no-pressure skate. The coaches aren't on the ice, and training camp hasn't fully opened. And the only purpose for the skate isn't so that I could watch you. The purpose is to try and shake some of that rust off before the start of training camp. But there is a little bit of pressure associated with it, especially for those young guys like Drew Fox, who has not played junior hockey before. Because Drew is on an opposite team from Rudy Burzkons, Teddy Lechner, Oscar Westman, some pretty big names that are pretty established at this level of hockey. Burzkons and Lechner, of course, were drafted in the NHL this summer. Rudy going in the second round, the first pick of the draft by the Edmonton Oilers. So that could be a pretty nerve-wracking situation for a young hockey player who's making the jump to junior hockey for the first time in their career. I thought Drew, he looked good. He looked confident again. Him alongside Charbonneau and Jonerheim, they played well together. They had some good chemistry. Obviously, Jonerheim was on the team last year, and Charbonneau was with the team for a lot of time last season, especially while he was recovering from an in-season injury. He was here in Muskegon hanging out with the fellas, getting to know some of his future teammates. Drew fit right into the mold with them. You've got the size in Charbonneau and Jonerheim, the speed in Jonerheim and Fox, and all 3 guys know how to put the puck in the back of the net. All 3 guys know how to find an open teammate in the offensive zone. Let's stick on the offensive side here and talk about another newcomer here in Muskegon, a guy making the jump to junior hockey for the first time in his hockey career. Let's talk about Billy McCausland. Now, this is a guy that we've talked about a lot this offseason, going back to episode 1 of this podcast and foreshadowing a little bit to our interview with Jake Tavares, who played with Billy as a kid in the Boston Junior Eagles program. Billy McCausland is going to be a combination of Cody Kroll, the former Lumberjacks captain from the 23-24 season, now a Fighting Hawk at the University of North Dakota, and David Deputy, who was on the Clark Cup championship winning team in 2025-26, now a Red Hawk in Miami. Both teams, both players playing in the NCHC. Billy is not the most fleet-footed skater on the ice, but what he lacks in that movement, he makes up for in his angriness. Now, when you remember watching Cody Kroll, and Parker Burgess is the one that said this first, that really put it together for everybody in their brain. He skated like he was angry, and opposing defensemen really hated when Cody was on the ice because he finished every check on every forecheck. And Cody scored plenty of goals during his time in Muskegon, and a lot of them were dirty, gritty goals started with great forechecks. I think that's going to be Billy McCausland. The difference between Cody Kroll and Billy McCausland is that Billy has skill that closer aligns with David Deputy. David, of course, he had the hard working with the speed as well, but the skill is there for McCausland. He put up a boatload of points last year in USHS prep school hockey over on the East Coast at Noble and Greenough. Noble's more well-known name for it, but he's very skilled, very hardworking, and again, just like Zach, once the Lumberjacks get into regular preseason action and they get to play against players wearing different colors than their own, starting on September 5 and 6 against Youngstown, I think you're going to see that grittiness really come to life for Billy, more so than a pre-training camp, get the rust off your bones kind of skate session with the fellas here in Muskegon. So McCausland's going to look really good this year. I'm really excited. He's one of my top guys to watch for the Lumberjacks, and a guy who I really didn't have any expectations for coming into this season, who now I have a ton of expectations for. That's Nick Kosiba. He's going into his third full season of USHL action. Back in 2025-26, he was on a Waterloo Blackhawks team that won a Western Conference championship. Then, that offseason, he got traded to the Fargo Force and appeared again in the Western Conference championship, falling to Sioux Falls. Now, this offseason, he's in a blockbuster trade. Max Cullen gets traded to the Fargo Force. Nick Kosiba and Trey Wilson get traded to the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Now, Kosiba, his point production in the past 2 years over in the Western Conference, it doesn't jump off the sheet, right? I didn't have crazy expectations. He's one of those guys who you saw Waterloo in this building last season. You knew Nick Kosiba, right? He was a presence and he was a difference maker, but nothing too crazy. Well, watching him today, it made me go back and watch all of his goals from last season, because in this scrimmage, Nick always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. He was finding loose pucks in the neutral zone. He was finding loose pucks in his own end. And most importantly, he was capitalizing on opportunities in the offensive zone because he was in the right spot at the right time, finding loose pucks in the offensive end. So when you go back and you look at all of his goals from last season in Fargo, a lot of them are scored backdoor on the power play, cleaning up rebounds out in front, or having teammates utilize that seam pass to hit him across the way. He did score some goals while at even strength too, but I really think for Kosiba, this third year in the USAHL is really where he's going to put the pieces together, and he's going to utilize his hockey brain and that high IQ that he has. He's going to put up a good amount of points for the Lumberjacks. He's going to be a really strong forward. He's going to bring some veteran presence to the lineup, a very new squad here in Muskegon. That's just the nature of the beast. When you have two consecutive championship caliber teams in junior hockey, you're going to say goodbye to a lot of talented players. I think the Jacks, especially with Nick Kosiba, are retooling with a lot more high talented players that are going to keep the Lumberjacks in the conversation of a Clark Cup championship. The last guy I really want to talk about here, we're going to talk about who I think was the best defenseman on the ice today. That's AJ Valenti. And I have it here in my notes, elite puck handling. And you saw that a little bit in an injury-shortened season last year in the BCHL. He started the year at Sherwood Park. He finished at Langley. Again, his point production didn't jump off the sheet, but then you look at him play here at training camp in an almost no-pressure skate. Of course, there's a little bit of pressure skating with some of your new teammates for the first time in this season, and a guy who's making the jump from the BCHL to the USHL. AJ looked fantastic. He kept the puck in the offensive zone plenty of times. He shut down breakout attempts from the opposing team. It was a gold versus white game today. He was on the goal team. He was on a defensive core alongside Teddy Lechner and a lot of good defensemen. Will Dystad, I believe, was on that team as well. AJ Valenti stood out from the rest. He was good against smaller sized defensemen. He's going to be like Danny Clares, Barrett Dexheimer, right? Offensive minded D-men. I think he's going to have a little bit of Xavier Veillot game mixed into him, sound defensively. But Valenti, he looked good. He's going to score some goals this year. A honey-baked product. We know we love our honey-baked guys here in Muskegon. But for me, he was the guy that jumped off the score sheet, who I think Jacks fans, as we get into the season, should be really excited to watch. And college coaches should be really excited to see AJ. He's an uncommitted defenseman. We mentioned it last week on the podcast. You know, this year he's playing to win a championship, but secondarily, he's also playing for that college commitment. He's a guy who I think is going to be a really good college defenseman when he makes the jump from the USHL to the college game. So we talked about a couple of guys that stood out to me today during the pre-training camp skating session, the 4-on-4 scrimmage they had here at the arena. Again, training camp opens tomorrow on the 26th. League rules dictate no workouts, no meetings, no practices. The team can't require players to arrive before the start of training camp. It's a league-wide thing. So any team that had events today, they're putting themselves in a little bit of trouble. The Lumberjacks, we don't like to do that. So no team event, just a player-only skate that they put together. And then tomorrow, Coach St. Clair and his coaching staff will get a chance to start working with the fellas and take that first step towards another appearance in the Clark Cup final, the third consecutive appearance, if the Lumberjacks can do that. All right, so now we get Jake Tavares. And before we throw things over to Jake, I just want to give a little background on the guy because he's a breath of fresh air, right? He's such a good kid. I actually met his dad yesterday when he and Billy McCausland arrived. They drove from Massachusetts together. He talks about their relationship a little bit. This guy comes over from Sioux City in a trade, and yesterday giving them a tour of the arena, he really fell in love with the facilities. Sioux City and the Tyson Event Center is regarded as one of the nicer player facilities in the USHL. And still, Jake was blown away by what we have here in Muskegon. He's a down-to-earth kid. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season in Muskegon. And we get to learn a little bit more about him and his upbringing back home in Massachusetts in this week's player interview on Get Jacked. All right, this next guest here on the Get Jacked podcast is getting set for his first season in Muskegon, but his second year in the USHL, an offseason acquisition of the Lumberjacks, an East Coaster from Belmont, Massachusetts, and future member of Dartmouth in the ECAC. Ladies and gentlemen, new Lumberjack, Jake Tavares. Jake, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
So you are a new Lumberjack, and we're going to talk about, getting traded and what that process looks like, going from Sioux City to Muskegon and what it looked like for you. But first, let's talk about growing up playing youth hockey. Belmont, Mass is just outside Boston. So we're going to talk youth rinks in the area. But did you grow up playing town hockey or club hockey when you were a kid?
Yeah, no, I played for Belmont Town for a little bit, and then I was kind of split between doing that and Eagles for a little while, probably until I was like 8 or 9, and then just went full time with the Eagles. So I was doing that. I've been playing for the Eagles probably since I was like 7 years old.
How awesome is that organization? I feel like you see, I know Carter Meyer's a big name right now. He was a junior Eagles guy, but you see every year just difference makers in junior hockey and in the NHL that played in that program.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like you just look at all the teams that I've been a part of with them, like almost full rosters of Division I commits and draft picks and just the coaching too, right? Like we were under like Freddie Meyer was our coach for a little while. Obviously he's a great coach. John Joyce was my coach growing up forever and he played at BC, and so we had great coaches and we competed hard, and it was just a great place to be. Like they made it fun, they made it enjoyable. We all enjoyed going to the rink together, and we had a really tight-knit group growing up. So it was really fun to be a part of that and to be around like a bunch of other good players and a bunch of other good guys. So
you the saying is like hockey is in Minnesota, it's the state of hockey, but I think that we might have some arguments here. How awesome was it, not just playing with the Boston Junior Eagles, but just growing up as a hockey player just outside Boston? Of course, you have the Bruins, and the hockey religion it's at another level in New England.
100%. Yeah, I think especially with New England prep school too. I think that's another huge thing. I don't think it gets the same amount of hype as Minnesota high school, but yeah, it's definitely a really cool environment and a lot of hockey fans in the area. So it's really cool to play in front of those guys and just to like play hockey in the area, just in front of all these communities that just, love the game. So
All right, so we're going to talk about Boston and Massachusetts youth hockey here. You're going to blind rank. I've got 5 rinks here that I used to ref at when I was in college. We'll go off the bat. We'll go with the most well-known one, New England Sports Center. You got
yeah,
5 rinks that we're blind ranking here.
that one's tough, right? Because there's so many ranks. So
Yeah.
it's which one do I? Yeah, I guess I'll go with. I'll put that one at 3 for.
Three. That's safe. That's a pro
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, safe.
Great. Let's go National League facility, Warrior Ice.
Warrior Arena. I'll put that one. I don't know. I don't think it's got the same. I'll go 4 with that one.
Okay. Okay. I can set you up for some real trouble here, but I'm gonna
Right.
we'll go Boston Sports Institute, right? It's where you played most
Yeah.
junior
I
Eagles
mean,
games.
I grew up there playing there. I love that. Right. I'll put that one at 2.
Too. Okay, this is gonna get real interesting. Let's go just in general, FMC rinks. You know
FM.
those guys? Yeah, the town rinks.
I feel like that's gotta be 5 for me.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
and then Hockey Town, USA.
Oh, of course that's number 1. That's not my number 1, but
I know, but listen, it's so old school.
yeah,
I remember when I was there, I was reffing, and you'd have your partner across the way, and he doesn't blow his whistle, but you hear it because there's
yeah,
no wall
yeah,
between the two
yeah.
sheets.
There wasn't glass there for a little bit too. It
Yeah,
was just wall. I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
trippy.
yeah, but you know what? I grew up there a lot. I did a lot of camps when I was younger there, so it's gotten some nostalgia bonus points to it. So
I like that. You've got a buddy here on this team, Billy McCausland. I know you guys are looking to live together in the billet housing this
mm.
season. How well do you know him from playing hockey in Massachusetts as a kid?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we played with the Eagles, like I said, since we were 7. Like we were on that first Eagles team. So I grew up playing with him all through my childhood, and then it was kind of fun when we went to different high schools and we got to play against each other. That was really cool. But yeah, we were really close when we were younger playing for the Eagles, and then a little bit of a rivalry built, I think, in prep. But no, we're very close, and I'm really excited to be back on the same team with him. He's a great player, so it'll be fun to be playing with him, not against him.
Yeah, when you went to high school, you went to Belmont Hill.
Mm.
Prep school hockey in New England is, again, I'm a Northeast guy. I'm gonna tell you that New England prep is better than Minnesota high school public,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
I guess that's a not popular opinion in this
yeah,
part of the country. But what was your experience like there at Belmont?
yeah. I loved it. I loved that school. I was there since 7th grade, and then obviously, playing on that team since I was a freshman, and I was under great coaches there. And then I think just the environment was so awesome. Like, just going like to every game, knowing that half your grade was going to be there watching, cheering you on. I think that's really cool. I think especially at Belmont Hill, we had a really tight knit community where we would go to all of the lacrosse games and all the football games and stuff, and all those guys would come to our games, and they'd make signs for us and all that kind of stuff. So it was fun to play in front of those guys, and I think it's really cool to be able to play in front of your friends. I think that's a really cool thing. So
It's funny the way that hockey works because we were just talking to David Deputy a few weeks ago, and he talked about that kind of mentality that the athletes at Miami that they have because the basketball team was gross last year. They went undefeated, right? The football team is in the MAC. The MACtion's like just addicting stuff in college football, and then the hockey team's getting better. And just like seeing guys the next day in math class on a Monday morning, everybody was playing the weekend before is kind of cool. But you get that in high school and in prep school, and you get that in college, but you're really a celebrity in town when you make that
Mhm.
jump to junior hockey in most markets, especially here in the USHL. And in a market like Sioux City, you got to play some USHL
Yeah.
hockey. What was that transition like for you as you went from New England prep and East Coast hockey to the USHL in Sioux City?
Yeah, I'm super super grateful for that. I think it was a really big jump just in terms of like life of junior hockey, right? Like it's a lot different than high school. I think the biggest thing for me was just like all the little things, right? Like that those things weren't really I guess like focused on a ton or as much in high school, and they're really, they were just really enlarged in juniors. Like all the little things matter so much. So I think that was a huge big thing for me just in terms of the hockey aspect. And then just like all the other stuff, right? Like travel and playing in front of that many fans and all those things I think really were a big jump, but I think Sioux City did a really good job of preparing me for that and like walking me through it. So yeah, I think the jump it was intense, but it was really good for me to kind of like dip my foot into junior hockey and especially the USHL. It was really good for me. So
I think Sioux City is kind of an underrated town in the
mhm.
USHL too, right? Like you have that
Yeah,
whole entertainment district right
yeah,
behind the rink, like sick
yeah.
spot, no?
Yeah. We had a lot of great fans too, and it was an underrated spot. I had great billets there, and we were a really tight knit group there. So, yeah, it was a great place to like dip my foot into junior hockey, and it'll be a lot of fun to play against them next year. So,
Yeah, we get to go back there for the first time
yep,
in 2 years.
yeah,
We'll touch on it real quick though, because you finished the year in the North American League
mm,
in Lone Star. Now,
yep,
it's called the Dirty South in the
yep.
North American League for a reason. What was your experience like playing out down there?
Yeah, I think that was another huge thing for me. Like, I think I developed a lot there. I had a great coach in Lone Star, Dan Wildfung. He taught me a lot, and in the league itself, it's obviously. I think I'm very fortunate to be able to play. That I was able to play in the USHL and the NOL South, because it was two very different playing styles, right? So I was able to kind of adjust my game and learn like how to play two different styles. And so I'm hoping to kind of just put those two together and bring them there next year. But yeah, I think both places just set me up really well for this year, just in terms of my development. So,
So with this past year and the first year of junior hockey under your belt, if you had to give a scouting report as to the kind of player you want to be this
mhm.
season in Muskegon, what would you say?
Yeah, I think I want to be a hardworking, competitive forward who's reliable, but also just has some offensive ability to score goals. I've always kind of thought I was a player that could score goals, and so kind of just taking that defensive reliability that I think I learned last year, and just bring that to the other side too, and show what I can do in the offensive side, and just compete, be hardworking.
I know you've been working hard this summer. Your guy Jacob Kaminsky texted me.
Yeah,
He's pumped to see you in
yeah,
Muskegon, and we're pumped to see you in Muskegon.
yeah.
You got traded here from Sioux City. What was that experience like? How did you find out that you were going to be a lumberjack this season?
Yeah, it was kind of out of nowhere where my agent was just like, "Hey, like there might be an opportunity there. Like, do you want to see that?" And when I heard it was Muskegon, I was like, "Yeah, like that's obviously I think that's Muskegon has grown to be a place where everyone wants to be." So when I heard that it was gonna be, they were interested, I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Like I was really excited. And obviously like I've heard nothing but good things, and it's a great program. So I'm really excited to get to a place that loves to win, and loves to just develop and get better. And so I'm really excited to be here.
You actually started the season last year playing against the Lumberjacks at the Fall
Mm.
Classic. Is that kind of the baseline of your knowledge of the team, or do you have some other knowledge? Obviously, having guys like Billy that that were already here.
Yeah, I mean, like I've talked to Billy and some other guys, but and they've obviously told me nothing but good things. But yeah, I don't really know a ton going into it, just besides obviously I know that it's a winning culture and that it's very professional organization. So but other than that, no, just kind of excited to see what it's all about.
The most recent Sioux City to Muskegon transfers, Colton St. Clair. He
Mm.
won the Clark Cup in both spots, so it's not too bad. I think
Yeah,
you're
it's
going to
funny.
enjoy playing. He loves his hardworking guys, right? I think you're
Yeah.
really going to enjoy playing for him. But you're committed to go to Dartmouth, right?
Mhm.
EP has you committed for the 27-28 season.
Mhm.
Uh, Says a lot about you off the ice, right? Going to a school in the ECAC and Ivy League school. What went into the decision? You see your parents or family diplomas behind you from UNH and Northeastern. What went into
Yeah.
the decision to go to Dartmouth?
Yeah, I mean, just as soon as I stepped onto that campus, I loved it. I think I was really, I fell in love with it right when I got there. And I think the coaching staff really stood out to me, just how personable they were, and how much they cared about the players, and they cared about the organization, the team in general. Like, I think that really stood out to me, and I just wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be a part of that culture and a part of that school. There really was just, everything was so appealing to me. And I was just, yeah, it was really like, as soon as I stepped onto that campus, as soon as I talked to the coaching staff, I was like, yeah, this is where I want to be. So
Have you gotten a chance to see a game at Thompson Arena?
yeah, I have. Last year I was able to go. I went to a bunch of away games, but yeah, I was able to see them, and it's an awesome place. The atmosphere is great.
It's since my buddy is one of the broadcasters there, right? I made my D1 debut broadcasting at UNH, but I got to call a women's game over at Thompson. That rink is just like, it's the perfect mix of just like a good college size and an old school feel. It's perfect, I think, for the ECAC.
Yeah, no, it's sick. It's really cool. I'm really excited to play there.
I love that. If you were looking forward into this year, right? I asked you to kind of break down your game and the kind of hockey player that you want to be this season. But if you were to set a goal for yourself, an expectation coming to this year, could be, might not, but could be your last year junior hockey, what would you say that goal and expectation would be?
Yeah, I think it's just to keep getting better. Like, no matter where I start from the start of the season, like, I just want to be at a higher place by the end of it. I think that's a huge thing for me, just to continue growing and just to come out of this a better person, better player. And then just to win, like, as a team. Like, I love to win, and obviously that was part of the reason I was super excited about Muskegon, just knowing the winning culture they have. So I'd love to win a Clark Cup, to win the conference. That would be awesome. So those two things for me, I think, are probably the highest thing on the agenda. So
I love that. Well, listen, you got me dialed in, right? I'm a big Jake Tavares fan now. Maybe not back at the last Fall Classic, but now we're dialed in. We're ready to go. So I'm excited to see you here 10 days or something like that. And so you guys are in Muskegon. You guys are going to love the beach. It's awesome this time of year.
Awesome.
We're right back to it. So I appreciate it, Jake. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you.
A big thank you to Jake Tavares for joining us this week on Get Jacked. Now, that interview was recorded last week or the week before, back before I shaved the beard, of course. New season, no facial hair. Can we go into the new season with? So a clean face and a clean slate for the Lumberjacks. Training camp officially starts tomorrow morning, the 26th of August. The preseason starts September 5th. The Lumberjacks have just about 30 skaters in attendance in training camp. I believe it's got to get down, I think, to either 26 or 24. The Lumberjacks looked good. I really love what I saw from them in this pre-training camp skate that they had today. And you should really enjoy watching them play here in Muskegon this season. The Jacks open the regular season on September 16th and 17th in Chicago as part of the USHL Fall Classic. It is the first game of the regular season, 12 o'clock noon on Wednesday the 16th. The Jacks take on the Des Moines Buccaneers. They close out their two games at the Fall Classic the next day at 3:30. Both those times are Central Time Zone in Chicago at the USG Arena. Game 2 is against the Waterloo Blackhawks, and the Lumberjacks return home. It's the 2026-27 home opening weekend, September 25th and 26th. The Lumberjacks open the campaign on home ice against the USNTDP under-18 team on Friday the 25th, 7 p.m. puck drop. It's a banner-raising night as we raise the banner for the 2026 Eastern Conference Championship. And then Saturday the 26th, it's Flannel Fest. Kicks off at 2 p.m. in the afternoon outside on Western Avenue, 2 to 5 p.m. Fans and people around Muskegon should come out to the free festival, get great food and drinks from Carlisle's Rad Dads and Dr. Ross. The Big Daddy Cornhole Tournament with Rad Dads is earlier in the day on Western Avenue. We'll have a DJ, we'll have axe throwing, we'll have face painting, we'll have sign making, we'll have an accuracy shot challenge, a stick handling challenge, and of course, player red carpet arrivals nice and early in the day. And then at 5 p.m., the doors to Trinity Health Arena open. Fans can make their way inside. And then we're going to get to watch the Lumberjacks take on the 18s to close out the home opening weekend here in Muskegon. For now, we really appreciate you joining us here on Get Jacked, the podcast. The Lumberjacks are getting ready to take the ice here in Muskegon. We'll see you next week here on Get Jacked.